Hello, and welcome to the Create a Life You Love podcast. I'm your host, Chantel Cox. My purpose is to empower and lift up others who know in their heart they're meant for more. More joy, more impact, and more passion. If you're ready to make a radical transformation and create a life that you love, then you have come to the right place. Let's do this. Welcome everybody to today's episode of the Create a Life You Love video podcast, where Ginger Cat and I get to connect with people from all over the world to share tips and strategies to help you on your journey. So for those of you who don't know me, I'm your host, Chantel Cox. I'm an author and transformation coach who uses the power of the neurocoaching model to help motivated high achievers rediscover their passion and purpose in life so that they can rise up, step into their full potential, and create a life that they love. So I'm super excited to be here today with Mike Rivera. Mike is a dating coach from the Date Maven and creator of the Power Dating Process. Merging his Be Love philosophy with a process-based approach to dating, he'll be sharing 3 things guaranteed to help you elevate your 2021. So, hey Mike, how are you doing today?
I am doing phenomenal. How are you doing?
I also am doing phenomenal.
Good. Well, then we're on the same vibration. That's a good start.
That is a good start. I'm so excited that we were able to connect this time. For anybody who kind of watches fairly consistently, you'll remember that poor Mike had the Rona back when he was originally scheduled.
And yeah, that was that was the toughest week, right? Was that when we were scheduled on a Tuesday, and I tried to tough it out, but I was like, no, there's just no way. So luckily I'm healed. My coughs finally went away, and I'm back to normal, quote unquote, whatever that means.
Very good. Very good. I'm glad that you recovered and are able to join us today.
Absolutely.
So I always ask, where are you joining us from?
Well, I'm joining you from the dining room in Wichita, Kansas. And I'm just kind of here ready to go.
I love it. I love it. So I'm also in Wichita, Kansas. And so we have gotten to interact in person too before this. So that's always fun. Mm-hmm. And I've gotten to get to know your other half, Susanna. She's been a guest twice on the podcast, and we've done
I got some catching up to do. She got a head start, but we'll see if I can manage that here in the next year or so.
Right. There we go.
Right.
I'm already mapping out season 3. So
I know. Well, then there you go. I'm going to have to find a way to slide in and get by her.
I love it. Awesome. All right. So tell us, Mike, a little bit about like your story and your journey. How have you created a life that you love?
Well, I'll be honest, I kind of created it getting into the date coaching realm. So, I'd gone through a divorce and kind of went through that tough time. And about that time, I was started dating afterwards, and I met Susanna, and just got into the date coaching mindset. And as I started like going internal about what made people successful at dating and what made people successful at having happy relationships, just sort of that introspection just kind of really helped me elevate my own existence, and sometimes when I would just kind of evaluate, what it took to have a happy, successful dating or love life, I just kind of shone a mirror on myself. And so that was sort of a tool to kind of help me grow and, kind of deal with some past demons, right? Usually when we kind of get out of a divorce, there's a lot of like baggage that we kind of got to sort through. So I was able to do that with the help of date coaching. So I'm kind of honored to be here. And I think it's great that I have an opportunity to just share some of the things I picked up over the last couple of years, and, maybe find a way to help some people out there that were going through a similar time. I know that, I'll be honest, 2020, it was one of the best years of my life, and that doesn't mean that there wasn't some really dark times. I mean, I could probably list a dozen things that would make people wince, but in totality, just the feeling I have from leaving 2020, it's nothing but positivity and hope and happiness. And, I would just like to share a little bit of kind of what helped me experience that.
I love it. Yeah. 2020 was definitely an interesting year, but there are things about some of like the lockdown and stuff that actually really benefited me and my business and all kinds of things.
Hmm,
So it just really
that's
depends
great.
how you look at what lens you're looking at things with. So that's awesome.
Mhm.
Uh, so, yeah, we're going to dive into ways that we can elevate 2021. Anybody joining us live, feel free to drop any questions or comments in the chat. I see Susanna's already hashtagging us in there. Thank you.
Nice.
um, so, all right. So, Mike, take it away. How can we elevate 2021?
Okay, the number one way, Susanna's listening, then she knows what I'm going to say here. The number one way that we all can elevate our own existence is to work on awareness, work on becoming aware. And if you're out there listening and if you're not quite sure what I mean by that, then that's maybe a sign that you have a little bit further to go. Sometimes people use the term enlightenment, having a feeling of enlightenment. I kind of go with awareness. I think it sounds a little less haughty. So that's just kind of what I prefer to use. But awareness, what I found is really, it's kind of the key to happiness. Happiness, it's the key to minimizing, frustrations, to minimizing suffering. And it's just been a foundational part of my life that's helped me do everything from, be a better father to be a better, boyfriend, to even being better at work and being a better friend in general. So I kind of challenge everyone to seek awareness. And I know that seems like really ambiguous when I say that at times, but I could go in a little more detail here in a minute.
Yeah, I wondered if some of the next steps were kind of how to get to that awareness or
Mhm.
yes, okay, perfect. Then we're already going there.
Yeah, yeah. So let me go a little bit deeper about kind of the awareness I'm talking about, and then I'll kind of step into how you can achieve it. Um, what I refer to as awareness is when you have an innate picture in your mind, an innate realization that we're all connected to each other, to everything around us. And I know that sounds really woo. And I know if there's any guys on here, I probably, lost them right there, but hang with me, just trust me. Um, Seek awareness until it's as real as your mind, like that cup that's in front of you, or that computer that's in front of you, or the dog that's walking across the lawn. That's all real to us, right? We look at that and we say, yes, that's real, that exists. Well, seek awareness until you see that connectedness with the same level of reality, because it's there. And when you have that level of awareness, when you see that connectedness, that really affects everything else. That affects every decision that you're going to make, like here on out. And that kind of leads to like the second level of awareness that I want people to think about. And that is discovering who your true self is. And I know there's exercises that we can do. There's both neuro-based exercises, there's meditative exercises we can do. But, having that sort of light bulb moment of, oh, wow, this is who I am and this is what I'm about, will change your life for the better, and it'll set you on a path to happiness. And it's been my experience that you kind of need that connectedness awareness to fully validate who you are as a person, where your place is in this world. So if you don't know exactly what I'm talking about, this is a really deep subject, and it's really kind of hard to. I mean, this could be an hour conversation just right here. But you can Google it. You can DM me on the side. You can leave a comment. We can talk a little bit further about it. But seeking awareness is going to help you in ways that really I can't fully put into words, because it is such a life changing event.
Wow. Um, so I want to ask questions. I also don't want to get you too off topic with your
Ask questions. I'm good. Like, we can go. This is your podcast. We can go any direction you want to go. So ask away.
um so how like, tell us a little bit about your journey of finding awareness. Have you always kind of been an aware person, or is this something that you went through and like things that you've learned?
So there's, a little bit of both. Even as when I was, a teenager, I had I think a high level of awareness, and not just in myself, but in being able to be empathetic and or read other people. And I'm not quite sure how that developed. Clearly my parents played a role in that, and even on an unconscious level, that was developed in me. And or I was in a situation where, to survive and to get through my youth and childhood, and to get through my parents, so to speak, I had to learn some of these skills. But I picked those up along the way, and that was certainly, I would think, the foundation of learning, and it laid a building block for me that when I experienced my enlightenment moment, I was able to sort of make the most of it. I can say I've spoken to people that have gone through similar type moments, but some of them, they still come out a little bit confused, which is natural. I mean, that's not a bad thing. Um, but what I found is that people that have done more work beforehand and have done more introspection beforehand tend to have a little bit firmer direction, afterwards. There's, as far as I know, there's basically three main ways that you can achieve this sort of enlightenment type awareness. One is hypnosis, two is psychedelics, and three is meditation. Your hypnosis and your psychedelics, those are sort of like the easy button. Those are the quick buttons. You can, sit down with someone to guide you, and you can get through that process in, you know, 30 to 60 minutes. You can be there, and you can be there minus your ego, and you can observe your mind with sort of a fresh set of eyes and have this sort of light bulb moment. You can also do this just with deep meditation, and there's people in Tibetan mountains and monks of Christian lore that have gotten this same level of awareness, without any outside help, just by going inward and taking the time and putting in the practice to do that. Generally speaking, meditation is the longer path. It is not the easy button, but it'll get you there as well.
Nice. So, as you know, because we're friends on social media and you've
Okay.
been sending some resources and stuff my way, I appreciate that.
Mhm.
So, I am pretty new into the meditation realm.
Mhm.
um, so, can you talk about some, for anybody else who might be listening that's kind of newer on this path, what are some resources for them?
Well, and that kind of really brings up the second point, which to have a better 2021 is to institute a meditation practice, because awareness is, well, it's sort of a moment. You kind of have a flash where you literally kind of just reality becomes more clear to you in some areas. Knowing who you are becomes so clear. You still have to develop that. So just because you kind of have this momentary aha moment, that doesn't mean you're good, and you still need to develop and nurture that. And the best way to do that is with meditation. One of the ways that I got started was I started listening to a gentleman named Alan Watts, who's like I think a 50s, 60s philosopher, and he has some musings that are on YouTube. You can look up Alan Watts Chill Step, and he'll just kind of talk for an hour or two and just kind of go over mostly Buddhist principles. But he has a meditation guide. It's like a 14, 15 minute meditation practice that is how kind of I got started getting into meditation. And I just kind of followed along. Again, it's a guided meditation. I just kind of followed along and went there. And then doing some reading, I also just kind of decided one day, you know what? This is like, I'm really making this a lot more complicated than what it is. And if you listen to the people that instruct you, they all essentially tell you the same thing. Find some quiet space if you can, and just sit down in a chair, or sit down when you're comfortable, and just focus your mind inward, and focus on your breath, whether it be, your chest expanding or your belly expanding or just the sound of your breath. Focus on your breath. And just, your mind is going to wander. You're going to think about work or what you got to do after this, or how long am I supposed to meditate, or, man, is this even working, or ouch, my foot itches. All of these things pass through your head, and everything you read says, that's okay, let it happen, and then just kind of let it flow on out, and then refocus on your breath. And so finally one day I was like, these 15 meditations are great, but I just kind of need to jump into the deep end of the pool. And so I just decided I'm just doing 30 minutes. I'm just going to sit down on the couch. I'm just going to think about my breath for 30 minutes and see what happens. And to be honest, I remember the first day I did that, I rode my bike over to Susanna's after that. I had so much energy. I had so much hope and just vigor from just that one little session. And I know that it's not that way for everyone, but I know that's how it felt for me. And that's sort of what gave me I guess, the encouragement to stay disciplined with my meditative practice.
So when you say that you're disciplined with it, is it like once every day, multiple times a day, or what's your recommendation?
I do it 3 to 4 times a week.
Okay.
And I usually tend to do it right before I go to bed. And sometimes I'll do it in the morning when I wake up. But I found for myself that's a really hard time to do it. So I usually do it right before bed. I usually go from about 30 to 45 minutes per session. And honestly, it helps me sleep. And I understand some people it can have the opposite effect. Some people it can get them energized and perhaps keep them awake. But what I found for myself personally is when I do it before I go to sleep, it helps calm me down, and it helps limit overthinking. It helps sort of slow down my mind so I can actually just sort of focus on drifting off to sleep. And I know at times, if my schedule allows, I try to get in more, but I'm really religious on those, that at least 3 times a week is a bare minimum. But for me, 4 is kind of that perfection. Studies have shown, and I'm sure a lot of people listening are aware of this, but studies have shown that if you meditate 30 minutes a day for 14 days a week, you can see some real cognitive differences in your brain. Science can confirm that there's more critical thinking activated. There's less anxiety. There's less stress. I think the health benefits are out there. What I just kind of want to throw out there that's a little bit different is to why that is. So there's a reason why your critical thinking is better when you meditate. There's a reason why there's less anxiety. There's a reason why you go to sleep better. And that's because you're more aware. It all goes together. The more you're able to kind of slow down your mind and actually listen to what you know, the less anxiety you naturally have about any situation, whether it be a work one, whether it be COVID, whether it be in a relationship. And the same thing with work. Maybe you're at work and you're trying to solve problems. Well, again, if you're just naturally approaching that problem from a state of calm and from a state of peace, then your mind is going to be better equipped to handle dealing with that problem and sorting through it. So what a lot of times get missed as to why people have these benefits, and really it all goes back to that awareness, which is why that was kind of the number one thing to seek, because really everything that you want in your life comes to that. And we can kind of help people through that. I think you do as well, right? You can kind of help people discover what's inside them and what their purpose is and what direction they want to go. And so certainly, that's why we're here. We're here to help you have a better dating life, help you to have a better relationship life. But at the end of the day, only you know what that means to you and what that looks like to you. And that happens when you seek awareness and when you take the time to nurture that awareness by meditating on a regular basis.
So something that's come up for me as I'm entering this meditation thing, and the word that I was using, because I just hadn't really thought of it as awareness, but I was using tap into my intuition. Like,
Mhm.
I know the answer. I don't need to overthink the answer. I don't need to overanalyze. Just be still, be quiet, listen, intuitively know the answer, and move forward. And so, is that similar? Like, are we just using different words to describe a similar thing?
Yeah, it's really similar. I would say one small difference is when when we, as in like me in this moment, when we as people have these sort of introspective thoughts, oftentimes our ego and societal norms kind of shift what what our true self wants. And we can try to reflect really hard on what we want, and we can even sometimes even go into meditation and try to discover what we want, and sometimes those answers are hard for us to obtain. But yes, the more you can sort of discover what your true self is looking for, um, I guess the better. And I'm saying this, I'm kind of thinking of two things at once. I'm thinking of someone that went through her awareness process, and so she actually started. She was going to do some psychedelics so she could reach a level of awareness, so she could help herself with a doctoral thesis. And so that was the reason why she wanted to be aware, because she was kind of getting stuck, and she wanted some guidance, some internal guidance on that. And when she got done, she decided that she wanted to shift her life, in a completely different direction. And she realized, you know what, if I want to be happy, I need to sort of shed what society expects I should want for me, and I should go with what I actually want for me. Um, but you're right. I do think you're right. That answer is in you, and it's in me, and it's in all of us. And it's really being able to unlock that answer or those answers with as little ego attached to it as you can, and with as little um, concern about societal norms, or what your parents would think or what your friends would think. And man, you got a great job, and you're going to throw that away to go be a goat farmer? Like, really? Are you crazy? Sometimes those are the kind of moments that people have. When they have that true awareness, and when they actually go beyond the surface level things. So, it can be a scary journey for some, but it certainly is interesting no matter what happens.
Absolutely. Yeah, I don't want to be a goat farmer, but my vision is definitely shifting recently since I've been meditating. So,
Well, and the funny thing is I think I actually know a goat farmer out in Lawrence. So if you ever do decide to go that direction, let me know, and I'll connect you guys.
I do have a friend who lives about a mile from me that her dream is to have a goat farm and do goat yoga. And we live like right in the middle of downtown. And so she's like, I want
Goat yoga.
to she wants to,
Wow, I don't even know what that. I can't even envision what that is. But yeah, sign me up for at least one class.
right, right.
Right.
That's awesome. Okay, so we have like awareness and institute meditation practice. How
The
else?
third thing.
Yes.
There's one more thing that we can all do to have a better 2021, and that is to know your worth. And again, that's for me, honestly, when I hear that sometimes, when you're like, you hear that all the time, Oprah talks about it, Ellen talks about it, and it's on all the memes or quotes that come across. Um, but do it. Take the time to understand that you're just this beautiful ray of light and of love, and that you are awesome and perfect just the way you are. And you don't need to lose 5 pounds, and you don't need to have that degree, and you don't need that car to validate you. You are just perfect just the way you are. And it's worth being aware of that, because that'll change your whole outlook on life. It'll certainly change how you not only feel about yourself, but that happiness that you generate from that will radiate, and it'll infect other people, and you'll be able to help kind of lift them up with you. One of the things I want to talk about worth real quick is I want to talk about the hamster wheel, because a lot of people get stuck on worth. And one of the reasons is because of the traditional ways that people look to achieve it. If you Google, how can I feel more worthy or how can I improve my worth? If you Google that, you'll see a lot of things on there, and they all pretty much have one thing in common. They all say you need to do something. Like, go start a workout routine, or, go volunteer, or go for that promotion. They all are telling you to do something to feel worthy. And that can put people on a hamster wheel to where it's impossible for them to feel worthy. So as an example, let's say I decide, well, you know what? I want to feel worthy. So I'm going to go to the gym and feel better about myself. So, okay, fine. I go to the gym. Maybe I lose some weight, put on some weight, whatever I'm trying to do. I feel better. My body feels better. I'm starting to feel good. Look in the mirror. Yeah, I like what I see. But as you keep going to the gym, you look around and you're like, wow, well, I don't look like this guy. Or, man, this guy, like, he's in really good shape. And, man, I'm not even close to that body. And what happens is you start comparing yourself. We just kind of naturally do that. You start comparing yourself to those around you. And then all of a sudden you start lessening your worth again, because you're like, man, I'm putting in all this work. I went from nothing to putting in 4 to 5 hours a week, and I am like years behind this guy. And now all of a sudden our worth starts shrinking again. Or maybe you go volunteer. Maybe you think, you know what, I'm going to volunteer 1 night a week, feel a little bit better about myself, increase my worth. So you go to the rescue mission and you go volunteer, and you think you're doing something, and then you run into somebody next to you, and they're working 40 hours a week, and then they're volunteering for 30, and they're a single parent, and they have 3 kids. And then you're like, man, gosh, I can't win. I can't even volunteer right. This person's blowing me away. So again, that's not everyone, but some people, they get on that hamster wheel and they realize, if I have to do something to feel worthy, honestly, I just end up right back where I started. So I have a hack that I use that worked for me. Doesn't mean it's going to work for you, but it certainly worked for me, and hopefully you guys can get something out of it. So there's a quote that I heard like years back, and I just kind of want to say that now. It says, like everything, I am nothing. Like everything, I'm nothing. And I know I've said that to some people just in the part of like conversations. Usually I'll say that maybe if I've been complimented, I might if a really strong compliment comes my way, I might drop that. And one of the things that people say sometimes to me is, "Oh, well, you're something. Don't don't say that. You have worth. You're good." And I tell them that's not how I view that at all. I view that as everything is equal to me, which means, the best looking person in the gym, which means the brightest supernova in the sky, which means, the beautiful mountains in Colorado, as awesome as all of those things are, that's me too. I have that same level of awesomeness. And so that quote, I mean, that's a quote, honestly, I've been probably telling my kids that for 10 years, and it can also be a humbling quote if you look at it one way, and I kind of try to look at it both, but kind of a tagline that goes along with that. And this is kind of a Buddhist tagline is, in nothingness, there is everything. So like everything, I am nothing. And in nothingness, there is everything. That for me is how I discovered my worth. And it was just, looking at it internally saying, you know what, I am just as magnificent as everything out there that I think is magnificent. And it's just having that, honestly, it's that light bulb moment, I would say, actually happened before I became aware. That was just something, I'm not quite sure how that developed. I think it developed over time, just as I replayed that quote in my mind over and over again. But the beauty of that for me is there's no hamster wheel. That sort of gets me off that, because I'm not trying to compare myself to someone, kind of reach their level. I am their level. I am there just because I exist. And now what does that mean? Well, now I get to go be loving and compassionate and help as many people as I can, while I'm here on this earth. Like for me, like that's my passion. And for me, that's my vocation. Um, but I don't know. I hope that that resonates with some of your listeners out there.
It's awesome. Yeah, I'm definitely guilty of being on that hamster wheel and the comparison trap and everything of, oh, well, they're doing that, and then you start shoulding all over yourself. I should do that too. And Ginger should not be so noisy when we're on a podcast. She
Right?
agrees.
Yeah. I mean, it's really easy. It's really easy to get that. I should be making more money, or I should have, better clothes, or I should have a better this or better that. And that's just kind of what's been programmed into us, right? Ever since we were kids, we've kind of been fed, hey, this is what your life is supposed to look like. And, part of that awareness that I talked about in the beginning is you just having that innate understanding of what exactly you are about and what do you actually need to be happy. And, I'll be honest, I quit going to the gym as much, once I kind of had that awareness. I actually took a yoga practice though, not so much because I was concerned about, trying to look a certain way, but I just wanted to be able to do something physical that helps center me, that helps sort of center my mind. Yoga is in a way sort of like meditation with movement. Because I know one of the key components of yoga is to focus on your breath while you do the movements. So yeah, I mean, for a lot of people out there, and I see that online. I see that on the the message boards. I see that in conversations in chat groups or in coaching forums. There's a lot of I feel like I should be and then just kind of fill in the blank. And oftentimes, if you ask a further question, is why do you feel that way? Why do you feel you should be there? It's important to just deep dive that. And oftentimes, what people find is because, well, that's because what people think I should be, or that's what my friends are doing, or that's what the Instagram model does. But if when you ask people, well, why do you think you should be there? I'll be honest, I've never heard someone say because that's what my heart tells me. And I think that's the key. And that's why you want to seek awareness. And that's why I recommend meditation. And that's why I recommend truly discovering that your worth has nothing to do with anything you accomplish. It has nothing. Just as you sit right there and listening, you are worth everything you ever need to be. Now, that doesn't mean that us growing and us improving our skills in certain areas won't add value to our life. Those are separate things. So just because you're worthy as you are, that doesn't mean you're like, you know what, but I do want to be able to start a business. I know that's what I want, and I know I need help doing that, so I'm going to search people out. Or you know what, I do want to have a great relationship and a great love life one day, and I'm not quite sure the tools to get there. I know I want that. I know I want to invest in myself for that, but I'm not quite sure the steps to take. And so yeah, you go find us or other resources to get that help. But yeah, kind of just try to shut off what the world thinks of you and just focus on what feels right to you, what feels right to you, and more often than not, you're going to head in the right direction.
It's perfect. I think that's so powerful. Um, and I do want to touch on for sure while we have you here, share some of the ways that because you are a dating coach and
Mhm.
your partner's is Susanna and you guys have the Date Maven and you have both dating and matchmaking, but then you incorporate all these things in it too, and so much more. So it's really, you have more of a like holistic, you're not just focused on the relationship piece, you're focused on like the whole person. So talk to us a little bit about that.
Yeah, well, so when I first started coaching, I'll be honest, I really approached it from a tactical, strategic mindset. I kind of, in my own mind, just kind of broken down the processes to be successful, and I kind of came into it with the thought of, that's where it's at. And what I kind of took for granted was, there's a base mindset that I think I kind of possessed that drove all of that. And with working with Susanna and hearing people, come up to her and say, you know what, you've changed my life. You've changed my life. The way, I view dating, the way I view the world, the way I view relationships has helped me exist in a happier place. And honestly, it doesn't take too many times to see that, to where, I had to start questioning, well, what is actually more important? Is it this tactic stuff? Is it the strategies of knowing, what to say, what to start, how to start a conversation, how to flirt? All of those things are important. But then I started thinking, well, is there something more important than that? And just as I started to deep dive what made people effective at dating, and as I saw like people just come up to Susanna and sort of just recount how she'd helped them, it really kind of shifted my perspective. And so yeah, we've definitely, we have both, and there's no doubt. But we'll spend easily half the time of your program, of like a 6 month program, we'll spend roughly half the time just on mindset. And for some people, they sound like, whoa, that's kind of overkill, isn't it? Well, it really isn't. It really isn't. I'll be honest. If anything, I could argue suggesting more time on mindset, because it is so critical. And once your mind is right, and once you're open to change and you're open to embracing change, then everything else tends to happen pretty quickly. Learning the tactics, learning, how to set up your online profile, learning how to start conversations, learning how to flirt when you're texting or on a phone call, or learning how to flirt on a date. Um, all of those things really just they kind of start with mindset.
I agree. I know when I was starting my business, I approached it very tactical and I need the strategy. How do I build a funnel? How do I do a webinar? How do I, all the strategies. And I'm taking all these different joining every course I can do and every challenge and every this and every that and just strategy, strategy, strategy. And I'd implement the strategy to a T exactly like, because I'm a perfectionist and
Hmm.
I'm like, oh, I nailed it, but my results weren't what I wanted. And then it goes back to, oh, why did I think I could do this? I'm a failure. This won't work for me. And it wasn't till I found like who I really dug deep with Dr. Shannon Irvin and started doing all the work on neuroscience and mindset. She doesn't teach, I mean, a little tactic, but it's all mindset. I mean, I did a deep dive on mindset for a year.
So,
Um,
what are some like mindset tools? Like, are there one or two tools that she's shared with you that you've picked up that you felt like have like helped you personally?
Yeah. So she actually has a doctorate in neuroscience and she created what she calls it the neuro coaching model. It's a trademark model. And she teaches she calls it STEBDAR. And it's basically, every situation is neutral, but then we create a thought, which then generates an emotion. And those repeated thoughts and emotions make our beliefs, and that's where our identity is. So that's
Hmm.
the STEB, STEB, situation, thought, emotion, belief. And then the bottom part we're pretty more familiar with is that we make a decision, we make an action, and we get a result. So, like, we make a goal, and this is the result I want. Here's the actions I need to take. So, I'm going to decide to do this. But when we're only living in the DAR part and we don't take into account the thoughts, emotions, and beliefs, then we are limiting ourselves.
So,
And so,
what's the DAR again?
decisions, actions, results.
I got you. So, the tactical part.
Yes. And
So,
so, go ahead.
it's funny. I just read like literally 30 minutes before I got on here. The phrase, all situations are neutral, and that's a very Buddhist mindset. That's a concept that's been around probably, starting with the Hindus, right? Probably like 5,000 years ago. So yeah, it's great that science is sort of catching up to some of this thinking that has been around for literally thousands of years. The concepts of awareness, the benefits of meditation, knowing and knowing your worth. These are concepts that are literally thousands of years old that science is just now starting to be like, oh, okay, there may be something to that. And it's great that this doctor, what's her name again?
Shannon Irvin.
Shannon Irvin, that she's sounds like she's found a way to like integrate some of those old world concepts with modern science and then put it in a practical way that people can absorb. But we do have a saying, when we coach, and one of the things is, I guess it's the neuro based coaching model as well, is it's hard to create change unless you feel the need for change. It has to be a feeling. All of that happiness, all of the motivation to have self control and discipline, that all really comes from how that makes us feel inside. And you're right. If people are just focusing on the X's and O's and they're not focused on the feeling that's driving that, then it just kind of makes everything a little bit muted. And you can still have some success, but it's not going to be the full spectrum of success that you could achieve otherwise. So yeah, if you want to maximize your life, if you want to maximize your current reality, um, yeah, seek the internal answers.
Yeah, definitely. Um, Sorry, she came back in, and I'm like, oh nope, see there she goes. I was like, oh, she came in, she's gonna be quiet. No, no such luck.
She fooled you.
um, so now I've lost my train of thought. Yeah, I just that mindset and being able to recognize the limiting beliefs that are holding you back and then learning how to rewire and create your own reality. I mean, it's very much what, back several years ago with The Secret and manifesting and all this stuff,
Mhm.
she brings in the science of, it's your brain's job to keep you safe and familiar. And so if you've never imagined it, then it's unfamiliar, therefore it's unsafe. And then your brain is going to bring in things like procrastination and perfectionism to keep you safe and familiar. And so, if you are recovering from, a breakup or a divorce, and so you're trying to build a relationship, but you've never had a healthy relationship, like you can have all the strategies and everything, but it's so unfamiliar, so therefore it's unsafe. And then you're going to kind of self sabotage. So it's kind of really getting down to that source and rewiring your neural networks to believe that you are worthy of a healthy, happy relationship, and you can have it, you can achieve it, and yeah,
And failure is okay. And that's, I know that's one of the things that we try to instill with the people we work with, is that kind of my mindset as a coach is, if you're not failing, you're not trying.
mm,
So don't worry about quote failing when you try to introduce yourself to someone at a restaurant, or maybe the date doesn't go like you wanted, or maybe you ask for the date and you don't get it. A lot of times we view that as failures, but man, I think that's a really tough word. But that said, that's just part of life. You have to take risks, right? If you want to get that reward, you got to be willing to take the risk. So embrace it. Don't be afraid of what is going to happen. If you know that that's inevitable, then just approach it with a smile on your face, and don't hide from it.
mm,
That's kind of a Buddhist principle, there as well, is that the more you try to avoid a certain pain, the more that pain is going to hold on to you. And one of the best ways to get over a fear is to run towards the fear.
mm,
And I know that's kind of counterintuitive to a lot of people. And you hit it right on the head. Our brains or our egos are designed to protect us, right? So they're designed to keep us away from those things that are going to potentially cause us harm. Um, and that's where we have to kind of wrestle control of our minds and go towards those uncomfortable situations, because it's only in going towards them can you truly actually conquer them. And then once you do that, it just kind of opens up a whole new world for you in whatever area you conquered.
absolutely. My When I was writing my book coach would say, "Fail forward." He's like, "You're going to fail, but make sure you're failing forward, because at least you're that much closer to your end game." um,
Yeah, yeah, and I would say, just and who cares if it's backwards? Like, just release the expectations on having to do, one way or the other. Just kind of embrace the, you know what, I'm going to approach this with an open mind, with a positive mind. And I know sometimes things are going to go my way. Like that's how I would reframe failures. Things are going to go my way how I originally wanted, but I know at the end they're going to work out. And, that mindset, I've seen that work with, I used to coach, soccer teams, football teams. And I've seen that work with kindergartners. That mindset works with the kindergartners, it works with adults. At the end of the day, we're all human beings. And generally speaking, we all react the same way to things. And yeah, if we can just develop a mindset of it's okay. Just tell yourself that it's okay. You know what? I'm sure I'm going to look at this podcast and I'm going to be like, man, I wish I had said something else, or man, I wish I wasn't doing this or I wasn't doing that. I have no doubt that when I review this, I'm going to think, man, I wish I did that different. And I know the next thought in my head's going to be, but you know what? It's okay. It's not the end of the world. It's okay. And I think if we can view kind of all of life that way, whether it be work or relationships or starting a business, if you can just forgive yourself and allow yourself to not be perfect, you're going to allow yourself to give yourself more love, and then that's just going to re-energize you, the next day, and to do whatever work you need to do to be successful going forward.
Absolutely. Love it. Um, so I feel like that is a great note to kind of start the wrap up on. So tell everybody where they can connect with you, and you also are offering a gracious freebie. So tell us about that.
Yeah, well, you can get a hold of me at www.thedatemaven.com. And one of the best ways to do it is to schedule a free session with us. And that's kind of the giveaway here today is, I'd love to work with anyone that's out there listening. Go ahead and go to our website. There's a tab there where you can schedule a free session and schedule that free session and sit down. And I would love to get to know what are some of the frustrations or obstacles that you're running into in your dating life. And whether that be mindset, whether that be, I'm not quite sure how to do the online thing, or, I hear some people say, I'm really good at getting first dates. It's getting the second dates that's the problem. We can sort of talk through what strategies that you can implement to maybe kind of up your game a little bit. And maybe we talk and maybe you're like, you know what, this went pretty well. And I think I might want a more all-inclusive type situation. Then we could kind of talk about that on that call. But yeah, go to our website. Please look us up. We have a lot of great resources there too. Susanna's built up a huge blog library over the years that, odds are if you have a question about something, you'll probably be able to find it in our blog library. So go ahead and check that out. There's some really great resources there.
That's awesome. Yes,
Mm-hmm.
I have spent some time on your guys' website for sure. So everybody go check that out, thedatemaven.com. Well, this has been a ton of fun. I'm glad that we finally got you on for season 2. And when I'm planning out season 3, we'll have to figure out how to weave you and Susanna back in. Susanna's been on season 1 and 2, so now she's
Oh,
done.
okay. Okay, so I see what she's doing. Okay, well, definitely keep me in mind for season 3. This was a lot of fun, and I'm glad to be able to share some things that honestly I'm pretty active online, but I normally don't talk about this stuff online or go into it in great detail. So I'm glad to be able to have a forum to talk about it a little bit.
Absolutely. I think it's so needed. So, yes, everybody, thank you so much for joining us on the Create a Life You Love video podcast. As always, I would absolutely love to connect with you one-on-one to dig deep into a challenge you're facing with a 30-minute complimentary clarity call. And so head over to the link in the description and schedule a time. And next week, we have another Wichitan. We've got Janelle Robinson, a photographer who apparently took both Mike and I's headshots.
There you go. Small world.
I know. And she is a photographer, a speaker, and a blogger. And she's going to share how we can shed our shame and live a beautiful life. So, same time and place next Tuesday. Enjoy the journey.
Adios.
Thank you for listening to the Create a Life You Love podcast. I would love to hear from you about your biggest takeaways. Share them with me on Facebook or Instagram at Create a Life You Love Coaching. If you love this podcast, be sure to subscribe, rate, and leave a review. It's very much appreciated. That's it for now. Enjoy the journey.